Welcome to the Vine Resources podcast show. Welcome to another edition of the Vine Resources podcast show. I'm delighted today to have with me on the line Joanne Black. Joanne Black is the #1 authority on referral selling, and I want to bring Joanne to give her insight and her wisdom and knowledge about this particular area. Joanne, thank you so much for joining me.
It's always a pleasure, David, and you know I speak American English, right?
Well, look, I know it's early in the day in San Francisco, so thanks for joining on the line. Joanne, I'm going to dive straight into it if it's okay. Can you just share with our listeners a little bit about you? You know, if no one knew who Joanne Black was, tell us a little bit about you and perhaps how you got into the industry, and more important, that moment that you realized how important referral selling was.
It was a moment, in fact. So I've always sold and managed sales teams. That's my career. But in 1996, and I know I'm going back a long way, I was working with a client and I was referred to them. I was working with them on their sales process. At that time, they were doing a customer satisfaction survey of 50 of their best clients. I added a question, which was, would you be willing to be a referral to this company? It was a 7-point scale, David, and the results came back 6.5, with 7 being high. So 50 of their best clients were saying, yes, I'd love to be a referral. Were they asking? Of course not. And then I had to think about it. I knew my best business had come from referrals. And I asked many salespeople and sales executives I knew, did you like to get referrals? And they all to the person said, oh, absolutely, we're pre-sold. They trust us. We have credibility. Our sales process shortens. We don't have competition. There's no cost to referrals. Oh, and by the way, we convert prospects to clients well more than 50% of the time. So that was phenomenal. But then I asked the next question. Do you have a systematic, disciplined referral process with strategy, skills, metrics, and accountability for results? Now, the answer in 1996 was no, and the answer today is still no. So on the one hand, we know it's the best business. It kind of happens, but it's not the way we work every single day.
Absolutely. And, you know, I think one of the biggest challenges is, as we've talked about in the past, there's so much going on within organizations. There's so much noise. There's so much things happening around social media. People aren't always picking up phones. People aren't responding to emails. How do you cut through that noise and you're able to reach those decision makers using referral selling?
That's the answer. And here's why I think referrals are even more important than ever. Actually, David, I never ever thought I'd say that. But because we have so much dependence on technology, those of us who receive introductions are getting meetings in one call. But think about it this way, that a referral means you're introduced. You don't just get a name and say, oh, David Lawrence suggested I call. I mean, that works sometimes, but the power is when someone your prospect knows actually makes the introduction and shares the business reason why they should talk to you. It is the one-call meeting. That's how you get meetings.
Absolutely. You speak to a lot of business leaders across the United States as well as across the world. What do you see as the biggest challenge that leaders are facing today?
They tell me a couple things. They say that they don't have enough qualified leads in their pipeline. Underline qualified 3 times. They also say that their teams aren't getting meetings at the right level. Those are the 2 main issues. Their sales process is also too long. That's another one that they tell me. Huge, huge issues. And referral selling mitigates all of those and more. because when you get the introduction, you get the meeting. And because of that, your leads are qualified because you are asking for exactly the person you want to meet. So how can you get those qualified leads in your pipeline? It's when you get that referral introduction. How can you collapse the sales process? Well, think about it. What takes the most time? It's that prospecting, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Who likes the prospect? Because we think, oh gosh, we have to pick up the phone and cold call.
Yeah.
So when we get the introduction, it just collapses that time, and we get meetings with the right people. So those are the three things. The sales process shortens, we get meetings with the right people, and we get qualified leads in our pipeline.
And Joanne, just to give our listeners an insight into that, can you just talk me through, I know what we've talked about this in the past, but just talk about that process you mean by getting that referral.
The first thing is you never, ever, ever, ever ask for a referral in any digital format. That's truly a cop-out. Right? We send this, something on LinkedIn. Would you introduce me? No. Referral's really personal. We send an email, ask for the introduction. No. We must have that conversation for several reasons. One is, I don't even know if you know the person I want to meet. I don't know how well you know them. I don't know the relationship you have with them. I need to speak with you, David, and learn about the person that I'm asking you to introduce me to. And I also need to explain to you why I want the introduction, the business reason, because that's why someone will take a meeting. And they'll take a meeting because I'm a nice person. You're not going to introduce me if I'm not. But that's not why a busy executive is going to talk to me. They're going to talk to me because they have the issues we discussed, and because referral selling will address those issues. You and I need to have that conversation. And it's also my opportunity to catch up with you. Maybe we haven't spoken in a while. There's new things that I need to learn about. I want to know how I can help you as well. That's step one. Step two is, once we have that conversation, you agree to introduce me. So that could be one of three ways. You might say to me, Joanne, I'm having lunch with this person next week. I'll talk to him then. You might say, I have a phone call, or let me call her and chat with her a little bit. That's another way. And the third way, which most people do today, I'm not as fond of it, but it works, is they will make the email introduction. But the email introduction, now they know the business reason. And many times people will say to me, Joanne, could you send me over something that I can forward? But what I do is, because I've had the conversation with you, I know the issues of the person, and I can address those specifically in my email.
There's some really good points in there, Joanne. Thanks for sharing that with us as well. What do you see perhaps with the industry changing in the future and changing at such a fast pace, particularly with technology around us? How do you see that impacting organizations on how they do their, selling their services or products and getting those meetings?
It's a push-pull. So one of the things that we see happening now, and it's going to happen more, is this total dependence on technology. I love technology. I use it. But what's happening is people are hiding behind it and think all they have to do is communicate that way, and they don't need to talk to people. The research shows that AI, predictive analytics, and other really cool technology is actually going to make our jobs easier and will free us up to actually think and convey insights and have conversations. It's going to make us even more available, but the challenge is we can also hide behind it and not have conversations. There's something else that's going on. About a year ago, Forrester did a report, and it was about how sales jobs were going to disappear. And what happens with most research like that, people read the first part of the research and they don't continue and read the rest. Well, the fact is many sales jobs will disappear. And the routine kind of sales jobs will disappear. But in that research, they also said at the end that those of us who are in consultative sales roles, our jobs will increase by 10% by the year 2020.
It's amazing. I mean, I think we're going through such a change, and as I think you said there, it's trying to get hold of those decision makers who, as you say, are hiding, or not necessarily hiding, but not being as easily accessible behind the technology wars. Joanne, if you had your time again, and you were giving your advice to your 20-year-old self, what one thing would you say?
I would go back to what I remember when I was in my 20s, and I graduated from college, and I had my first job. It was actually in retail, in women's apparel. And I distinctly remember that I wanted to change a display. And I went to some of the people who'd been there a while and explained what I wanted to do. They said, Joanne, that's never been done before. I went to my manager and I said to her, here's what I want to do. Here's what they said that has never been done before. She didn't miss a beat, David. She said, that's the best reason I know for doing it. That has been my mantra, not when I was 20, but when I was 22. But that's what I have followed, and that's what I would say to everybody. You know, if we want to look like everybody else, we do what everybody else does. If we don't, we step out of our comfort zone, we stretch, and we try new things all the time.
I remember you sharing that story with me a little while ago, and I think that's fabulous insight, and I think you've got to try different things. And yeah, I mean, I think that's really good advice. Joanne, I know you've got your book out, your first book, I think, No More Cold Calling, where I think you do actually share your 5-step referral selling strategy or methodology. How can people get in touch with you if they want to reach out to you?
Several ways. My email is Joanne, Joanne, at nomorecoldcalling.com. That's a great way. You can also invite me to connect with you on LinkedIn. But here's what I'd like you to do, because LinkedIn is a place to begin a conversation, begin a relationship. So tell me that you listen to this podcast with David, and we will connect and we will start a conversation online, and then we can take it offline. And of course, I'm always delighted to speak on the phone. So my phone number at my office is, I'm in America, so it's +1, area code 415-461-8763.
Joanne, thank you for that. And I love the fact that you mentioned the phone number there, because I love talking to people on the phone. You know, you can only do so much with social media, and it's a powerful platform, but you need to talk to people and you need to meet people. And it's been really great and a pleasure to have you on the show today. And I look forward to talking to you again in the near future.
Thank you, David. Here's to great referrals.
Thanks, Joanne.